Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. My name is Tim Burch, and I'm the Executive Director for the National Society of Professional Surveyors and your host for the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on most of your favorite streaming platforms, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. For more information about the podcast and NSPS, please visit our website, nsps.us.com. So, without further delay, here's our next episode of Surveyor Says, the NSPS Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. I'm your host, Tim Burch. And yes, I'm in the office. I'm in the studio. There's got a bunch of travel coming up here shortly. We'll get into that at some other time. But, in reflecting back, we just came not too long ago off of our spring business meeting. And I got to tell you, it was a great meeting. We were able to kind of reminisce of some of the things we were able to really accomplish last year, besides the marketing, and we're just growing some things that much further. The one common denominator for a lot of that was our now immediate past president, Linda Foster. And so, after thinking back to her initial presidential speech and through the year, and then after we installed Tim Murphy as the new president, and Linda was able to say a few things. I had to have Linda on because Linda, you have really just kind of raised the bar on what it takes, what a president can set out to do and accomplish. So, Linda Foster, past director for South Dakota, immediate past president of NSPS. What do you do for an encore?
Well, I got to tell you, as you all know, I'm very passionate about our profession, about land surveying. We've only just begun. I will continue to have passion in certain areas of our organization, and I'm involved in different committees, and so I wouldn't call it an encore so much as let's continue some of this great work, and I look forward to pitching in and contributing where I can and where it makes good sense.
Well, before we jump off into what we've done, what we're doing at NSPS, can you explain a little bit to our listeners your role at Esri? Because I think people sometimes wonder, well, she works for this huge GIS company. What does surveying have to do with that? And your job is all about surveying when it comes to Esri.
Yeah, so technically my role is a director of land records and cadastral surveying solutions for Esri, which of course is a GIS software company. I have the unique opportunity to be in what's called industry solutions within our company, which is really an amazing place to be involved in industry, be involved in geospatial as a whole, and to really be the eyes and the ears and visionary, so to speak, looking out ahead, what's coming as a whole in geospatial. How does it tie together? How does land surveying fit in? How does GIS fit in? All of these things that we're all working with on a daily basis, maybe thinking about, maybe chewing on. I have the good fortune to be able to work inside a company that is very forward thinking and very forward looking, and also very mission driven towards just making our world a better place. And I think that's really resonates with what we do as land surveyors as well. We're all walking towards the same goal, and that is to make our world a better place at the end of the day.
Well, exactly, and very well stated. And that's one thing that we keep touching on at various times within the podcast and a few other places, where we're putting out content for our members, is that how technical, how much bigger the data is getting for surveyors, even just the mom and pop surveyors with simple laser scanning and SLAM technology and all this stuff. It's really important that the software manufacturers stay in touch with the land surveyors, and I'm sure glad Esri has you at the lead of that.
Well, it's a wonderful place to be. Like I said, those that know me know I'm incredibly passionate about technology and innovation, being on the leading edge. I always have been. When I was in consulting and in practice, that was, always a passion of mine, is figuring out how we can do the work that we do as land surveyors and practitioners that much better, that much more effectively and efficiently by leveraging technology. It's here to stay. It disrupts us, absolutely. But at the end of the day, if, we can embrace some of that and figure out as surveyors how it benefits us, how does it improve the work we do and improve society as a whole, I think we'll all be in a much better place. And we have so much opportunity as surveyors today in with all of the different dimensions, with the technology, with the new datums that are coming out, with all of the things that are, the rapid acceleration of change just in our physical world, and the acceleration of development, growth, all of those things. We've never been positioned better to be leaders in our work today. And so that really, really drives me, that lights the fire underneath me to do anything and everything I can to help, move things forward.
Well, and I guess in addition to your passion, I'll say the demands of the job. I mean, let's be honest. It puts you on the road quite a bit, and I guess what I appreciate about what Esri's allowed you to do is you've also kind of carried the water for NSPS, the modernization, the education, a lot of things that we're going to talk about. You've been able to talk about this, I mean, literally worldwide.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the great gifts it has given me is an opportunity to be eyes and ears in so many different forums, different places, even just around our country, different states, with NSPS, going to the different conventions and the different conferences and talking with practitioners all over the country, because there are so many things that unite us and are common for us, but there are unique challenges depending where you're working. And physical environments differ, of course, widely across our country. Some people work a lot in the rural areas. Some people work a lot in urbanized areas. Some people are working up against the coastlines. That, adds a new element in. I didn't in my practice. That was an area that I didn't get exposed to as much, but it's fascinating to me, and I've loved learning from those that do. So it really has been just incredibly humbling and eye-opening. But I think as a leader has helped me have a broader view of what the needs and the challenges and those things are, not only at home here domestically, but also abroad, because internationally, again, we're bound by many of the same challenges and things, but we also have differences, and we learn from each other when we come together and share what those are.
Oh, exactly. And, besides surveyors and your second love of GIS along with the surveying, I mean, you've been exposed to a lot of other groups. And the ones that come to mind are the assessors, the right-of-way associations. I mean, you and I went to the American Geophysical Union, which didn't even know there was such a thing, but is a huge geospatial, geodesy, a little bit of everything. Well, geophysical. You've been able to touch on surveying and how it touches and ingrained with so many other things. I mean, how has that kind of shaped your view of where our profession's going?
Well, I think what it has done is it's given me incredible insight into all of the different pieces that have to come together for us to move forward in a society. And as surveyors, we're very diverse many times in where and how we practice, where, the different areas just to practice within land surveying vary broadly. And some folks are very focused in a couple of areas. Some folks, practice more broadly. As a practitioner myself, coming up, through the years in consulting, I worked in more rural areas. And so we had to be very diverse. And so I think what being exposed out in the wild, if you will, in these different organizations and different groups, what that does is really help with clarity and understanding of how each of our disciplines touch each other and how they intersect or even overlap. And that's becoming vital and even more important when we look at geospatial as a whole, because obviously geodesy is really at the core anymore in how we work because of positioning and GPS, GNSS, has really revolutionized a lot of what we do in surveying. And so learning more about the fundamentals of geodesy and what that group does and how it impacts
Yes.
the work we do is so critical. It's important to have that broader understanding.
Well, exactly. So, I guess the fact that, it's not just sitting at your desk and going through this, as in your position at Esri and trying to make all these relationships. I mean, you've been out and about quite a bit. So thank you for your dedication to our profession, to our organization, and we're better for it. I would like to let's take a step back and take a look at what the past year has brought us. As you were coming into your presidency, you made it very clear that there were several things that you wanted to not necessarily accomplish, finish off, but really some initiatives and things you wanted to get started. Amongst those were education, advocacy, workforce, starting to reevaluate our standards, and then really how visible the surveying profession needs to be to not just other professions, but to the general public, to the future surveyors, to parents and teachers and such. Walk us through some of the things that you were thinking about when you were setting up these goals for yourself and for NSPS for your presidency.
No, great question. And really it all stemmed from some great work our leadership team did as I was coming up through the ranks, so to speak, and approaching my presidency. We really rolled up our sleeves and tackled our strategic plan, which hadn't been updated for quite some time. And, really sat down and thought hard with our current leadership team at the time, with you, Tim, and Trish and the staff there at the office, because we know that things are changing so rapidly, and we know that we now more than ever, we have to be nimble. And that was something I just felt in my core, that we have to be ready to pivot. We have to be ready as an organization to respond to whatever might come our way, because we never know. The best laid plans, we can head down those roads, but we never know what things will disrupt us, whether it's technology or, on the policy sides of things, you just never know. And so having a baseline framework that really laid out our roadmap, so to speak, gave us some framework and some guidance as a leadership team, but also as an organization of what do we want to tackle? How are we going to tackle it? What are our core values? So I think that forced me coming in as a leader, and also I think our whole team, to really evaluate where we are and where we want to go. And of course, all plans are fluid. They're living documents, as I said. But you do need some kind of a framework or guideline to kind of help ground you in your goals and your mission and your vision, so that you can execute and get to some of those places. So that was the start of it for me, was really helping guide and be part of that framework, because that really set the foundation for the work that I took off and embarked on during my presidency. And a lot of that work was already, we had a lot of great work underway, and pieces of that work, already brewing, if you will, and growing. And so it was really just pulling that together and then being able to really take off and implement once my presidency arrived.
Well, agreed. And some leaders, they motivate by fear or intimidation, whatever. What I appreciated about your leadership style coming in, not that we'd had any of that other prior, but it became more about camaraderie and more about the teamwork and rowing all in the same direction, a little bit harder. No, realizing that we had to get some of these things underway to truly present topics, ideas, and vision for our members, to know what we were even talking about, what we were trying to achieve. So I know education is a big, you're a big proponent of education, and really pushing things along. I mean, we are becoming more of a technical profession. But tell me a little bit about what you saw and what we needed to do as a national organization to push that to that next level. I mean, it's one thing to just say, yep, everybody should have a 4-year degree, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But there were other aspects of it that you really wanted to push forward. And I think we did very well in accomplishing most of those.
I agree. And I guess what I saw as a whole was really maybe needing to step back and look at how does education fit across the spectrum of land surveying, across our profession. And I'm not sure we had always, we do a great job in different, focused areas, but I think really stepping back and looking at, and this ties directly into our work on workforce as well, the workforce development work we've been doing over the last several years, in really understanding that there are many touch points throughout and across our profession where education is paramount. Really, it touches it all. But whether it's young kiddos, elementary, middle school, high school kids that we're just starting to introduce, that's an educational process. We're teaching when we come into a classroom, when we are working with those kids in career fairs, when we're out in the scout jamborees and working through those, those activities. That is a level of education that we're giving those kids. When we go to the guidance counselor conferences, the big national conferences where we interface with all of those school guidance counselors, we're teaching and educating those folks so they can take it back to their schools and to those kids. So that's one aspect, but also looking at our technicians. How do we reach them and how do we educate and help those folks strengthen and grow? Because no matter where you are in our profession and which aspect you're focusing on, whether it's a technologist, a field person, whether you're a licensed professional, whether you're an educator, maybe in a university or in academic research, or a geodesist, that's out there just doing really amazing things. It touches all of those things. And what I wanted NSPS to do was really be a part of all of that, really leverage our strengths and our talent that we have inside our organization and in our membership to really roll up our sleeves together and look at how do all of those pieces fit together. By bringing back an academic journal this year, which is really exciting, the SALIS journal, that helps us strengthen the higher education, the academia, the research, because we need folks to be coming into and teaching in our universities. And we know that's an area that we are losing talent rapidly. We have attrition that's happening all over our profession. We know this, but that's no different. In our university, a lot of those folks that have been teaching for decades are retiring out. And so we need a place, a pipeline for those new folks coming in, getting those advanced degrees to be able to publish, research, all the same. Same thing for our technicians, our CSTs coming in. We need a place for them we need a career path, right? For them to grow and continue in their building and advancing their careers. So that's really what was kind of driving me. The body of knowledge is another thing, much like our strategic plan hadn't been updated for quite some time. So given all the change that's happened and how dynamic things are right now, it felt like the right time to really be rolling up sleeves and tackling some of those things to help propel us into the future and really position NSPS as a leader in these things.
Oh, exactly. And I'm going to tie this a little bit back into the education part. All of our work that has went into working with NGIS, working on the NSRS modernization, and a lot of that even comes back to just educating our practitioners what this is all about, what this truly means, and why we need to move forward with new datums, with new ways of collecting this data and realizing that data moves over time, whether you like it or not. It truly does. And so, part of that education process, I think that fits so well into your vision of pushing some things forward. And so, I guess coupling the education part with also the advocacy of why it's important that the surveyors are involved with a modernization, because there's going to be so many people, so many entities that are going to rely on that data set, whether it's municipalities, whether it's construction, whether it's what engineers, what have you. There's a lot of that advocacy that we've got to push forward with our surveyors as well. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts on really becoming more of the advocate for our silent profession.
Absolutely. I mean, geospatial is everywhere today in our lives, in each one of our lives, even though as land surveyors inherently we're spatial people, that's our business. But just understanding that location and geospatial has crept into everybody's lives everywhere without really quietly, right? It's just
Right.
silently happened. And, even our lawmakers, our policymakers, all of these individuals that are out there really are being touched by it without even knowing it. And I think that's where, as land surveyors, we have an incredible opportunity with this new datum change happening. It's a big change. But I'm excited about it because it makes us better. It makes our world better by updating these datums. And we know we live in a dynamic world, and we know the way that we, when we're leveraging GNSS and GPS, that becomes even more apparent. And so that's where I feel if we can get our surveyors, up to speed, educated around this, they can also be ambassadors and educators out with their clients, with their constituents, customers, and then also with policymakers and with others that are impacted by what we do. It's a really great opportunity to position surveying in the forefront and perhaps give us some more visibility. Whereas, it's been a silent and almost invisible thing for so long. And it's not just the surveyors, it's the geodesists, it's all of the other folks that come together to make all of these things happen. It just happens magically, right? That's what
Yeah.
everybody thinks, but
Oh yeah,
there's a lot to
exactly.
it.
Exactly. Well, and that's going to lead me into kind of the next section, which, depending on who you ask, what is workforce and workforce development? It can be a multitude of things. And I think what you just touched on, as far as visibility, advocacy, workforce can be seen as, how are we influencing that next generation of students coming into a workforce of some sort and leaning them our way? Or is it workforce development is taking existing workforce and training them up to where they need to be? I mean, it can be so many different things. But tell me what your thought is as far as really approaching, how do we come at the workforce from all of those directions and try to guide what the profession is going to look like in 5, 10, 20 years?
That's a great question. And workforce is one of those things that it's not just surveying that the surveying profession that's wrestling with this right now. We are competing with every profession out there right now. And that is something that, as I was sitting in the quiet moments that don't happen often, but when they did, and I was thinking about, my time as president, that's probably one of the most sobering things to me, was the fact that we know that we have substantial attrition, and that, we need to bring more folks into the profession. But the really sobering thing is it's happening in every profession, and we are all competing for the same talent pool. And so what can we do to stand apart? What can we do to entice young people, or even people who are looking for career changes? We know
Mm-hmm.
that as a society, we're moving more from you fall into a career maybe young in life, and then you stay in it for decades, 20, 30, 40 years. That pattern is changing, and that's okay. But we need to be ready for it, and we need to be ready to catch people who are ready for and looking for changes. I think we've done an amazing job of that at NSPS, looking for people who are maybe looking for career transitions, for those who are transitioning out of service to our country. Our military service people, we've
Yes.
done an amazing job. We have a committee that's dedicated to this, finding those folks who have amazing talent. They have incredible skills already, and they're looking for that next step in their lives and in their professional lives. And so, being ready to catch them and support them as they come out and helping them along the way, that's one entry point, right? Getting the young generation excited. And I think we are positioned better than many career fields because of all of the technology that surrounds us. Sometimes we get scared by it, sometimes we get frustrated by it, sometimes we get tired of all of the buzz. But at the end of the day, so much of what's propelling our profession right now is exciting to young people, and they're good at it. They embrace it. They're excited by it. It's natural to them. They've grown up with an iPhone in their hands, or what have you, drones, all of those things, and they're ready to go. And if we forward face with excitement about what that is in our profession, there's momentum that gets built just by us being excited and forward facing that. Pretty soon people come along and go, why are they excited? I want to know what's exciting. And it builds
Yes.
and it grows. And I feel like we're experiencing that through our YSN network. We're experiencing that through our workforce development committee and all of the touch points we have through that group, through our military committee, and through the marketing efforts that this organization has done in just getting the word out. And, we used to kind of operate in that somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody that knew a surveyor.
Right.
That still works. There's people that come into our profession that way. But we've got many different and other entry points that we can leverage now that I think we've done a good job of finding a lot of those. There's more out there. We know that. But that's a key, I think.
This is Tim Burch, NSPS Executive Director, and your host for the Surveyor Says podcast. Thanks for taking the time to listen to our insights into the surveying profession. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests in the surveying profession. We are pleased to announce a new offering titled Between the Stakes, a podcast created by the NSPS Young Surveyors Network. The first 3 episodes introduce your hosts, Stacy Pollock, Nolan Mark, and Stuart Ward, all licensed professional surveyors who each bring a unique perspective to the profession. After you get to know your hosts, they will sit down for a conversation about the surveying profession and their views on where the road lies ahead for our practitioners. Subscribe to the Between the Stakes podcast and Surveyor Says on most of your favorite streaming platforms, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. For more information about all NSPS media channels, please visit our website, nsps.us.com. And now back to the conversation. One thing I want to take a step aside for just a second, because you've been really busy and very active with these other groups. And the one that really jumps to mind are the photogrammetrists. We've looked at our standards as a surveying profession and have realized that technology has changed so much. And while our standards might not necessarily be in the dark ages, they do need to be updated. They do need to be modernized to go along with all the technology. And then in turn, we're also trying to get this ready for the new NSRS. So tell us a little bit about what went into some of those conversations with some of these, I'm going to say, some of our contemporaries in creating new standards for the surveying profession.
No, great question. And I think we are all, first of all, we will all be impacted by NSRS modernization, right? That no matter where you are in the geospatial ecosystem, which area of specialty you fall under, we will all be impacted by the NSRS modernization. And, some people look at that as it's big and scary, but I look at it as opportunity in a couple of different ways, and an opportunity for us to work alongside our fellow geospatial practitioners on a common theme, right, or a common interest. And really, NSRS modernization has done an amazing job of that. We have a group of folks across our geospatial professional societies, that we partner with, that we are all looking at it and how it impacts each of our specialties, but also across geospatial, and how can we work. Not one of us can tackle all of this on our own, and right. I think that's the big message. But also how there's so much more drive. For many, many years, it was expensive to create data. It was expensive to store data. And then we kind of swung into a period where computing costs really came down. Communications, the ability to send data, receive data, and mass order costs went down. Opportunity was high. We were creating data like no other. And we've been set in kind of a pattern of that for a number of years. What's bringing pause to to us as surveyors and to our geospatial contemporaries is the fact that now we have a massive amount of data. We're gathering massive amounts of data. We're moving into a new datum. We also want to be more sustainable and mindful with the data we are collecting. Can we reuse it? Can we leverage that data for insights? Looking back and looking forward with AI entering the picture, AI is going to completely change the conversation as
Oh,
far
yes.
as how we store data, how we trust our data, what we do with our data, building digital twins, building these digital models of our physical world, which is what, we as surveyors are great at modeling our physical world. But we need to have good confidence and grounding in that data. And that comes back to standards, metadata standards, and ensuring that the data that we're feeding AI or we're using in these big systems or using down the road is solid, right? And trustworthy.
Oh, exactly. Well, it'd be easy to just stop right there. And all of the things that you set out to do, the organization rallied around, we really were able to get done. But even leading up until the months that was leading up until your installation as president, we were in the process of kicking off for realistically the first time for NSPS a marketing campaign with a marketing company to really promote and push out into social media and create more content, different content. And I would like to say we've been successful, but that might be a really big understatement. The fact of the matter is we've got so many more eyeballs on us is incredible. But I think it magnifies then all of the things you've talked about here, that we are now visible and now being seen literally worldwide as leaders in a lot of these things. And you've been a trooper. You've been out there pushing along with us. I mean, you and I together, we kind of kicked off going to Geo Week and seeing what that was going to be all about. And now that thing's turned, I think that's going to turn into a six-headed monster, if you ask me. I mean, I think it's going to be a great thing to do. But so I guess my question to you is, are we doing what we set out to do with the social media and promoting our message to everything that the surveying community needs to know, needs to be, and hopefully we're laying a pathway down for the future surveyors?
I think we've accomplished what we set out to and way more than we could have ever anticipated. Personally, I mean, the success and the momentum that we have achieved has exceeded my goals and expectations by far. And we're continuing an incredible amount of energy and momentum forward. And I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. And I think it speaks volumes to the great work we're doing in our organization. We have a lot to share. We have a lot to talk about. And I'm so excited that we we have found our way to communicate that, because we've always done a lot of wonderful work. NSPS has done amazing
Right.
work over the years.
Agreed.
But it's not always been as visible as we probably would have liked it to be. And we know and understand in today's society that the way people interact with information, get their information, all of those things has changed. And I think we're tapping in a good way a lot of those channels, and we're gaining a lot of new folks who maybe or were out in the surveying profession, to some form or another. It's bringing them in and bringing their attention to what we're doing, and it's become a more inclusive environment, I think, quite honestly, to share, because we have so many things to share in different areas of our profession, whether it's educationally oriented, whether it's along, credentialing and licensing and those pathways, or getting our technicians up to speed, or transitioning folks into a new career. There's something for everyone. I feel like we expanded our offering, if you will, by just getting it out
Right.
there. Some things that we've done internally as an organization over the last year. that are new and different, I think are helping feed that machine. That we have committees that are doing amazing work. They're volunteer committees. They're people who are passionate and are volunteering their time because they love the profession, and they have areas of expertise and areas of passion. And when you put that together, it yields some incredible forward momentum. And that's what we're really, really seeing positive fruit from this last year. And then having this amazing platform and marketing team to help us share that success. It's not just going out,
Oh, yes.
internally, or maybe going out in a newsletter here or there. We're able to share that and amplify that. So wherever people are and happen to pick up their information, hopefully some of that's coming through, and we're reaching and touching more people than we ever have been able to before. And hopefully the younger folks in, related professions are benefiting from some of the things that we're doing out there as well.
Well, we would be amiss if we didn't also mention, really some of the successes. I mean, it was on your watch of the NSPS Young Surveyors Network. I mean, they undertook the mentoring program that had been started at FIG and really took it and ran with it. And the fact that now the young surveyors, now their group has a seat on the full board of directors of NSPS, and there is more, and I was gonna say there's more recognition, but I think the biggest recognition is what they've accomplished with the student competition and bringing that into something that's just to see the excitement of the students that are coming in. That this is the first time that they are there, but they've heard from their classmates that this has been a great thing, and so the bottom line is what the young surveyors have been able to accomplish, and we're kind of bringing people under the tent a little bit closer, and I think that's very important.
They are an amazing group of professionals. I have truly enjoyed getting to know many of them, working with them across my year in leadership or a few years here as I've come into leadership, watching their growth, watching their energy and their enthusiasm. And they give, man, does that community give. I mean, they are young. They're many of them are young in their careers or early in their careers, and they're giving. They are giving to this profession of their own time, of their own money in many cases, to be able to participate and be a part of these events. And they are an amazing component of what and who we are for reaching out into the workforce, bringing along those younger folks and building that community, and then engaging with the students through the student competition. What an amazing way for those students who are just ready to step out into the profession to get to be around those young professionals and just soak up that energy and excitement and find mentors. That group of young folks, they will be mentors to those students that are coming into the profession, in bringing them into our fold, into the NSPS fold as committee folks, as, future leaders. It's just, that is how we grow the profession. That's how we grow, bring people into the workforce, because when you're touching people with that much energy and excitement and enthusiasm, it's contagious. I mean, in such a good way. It gets me excited all over again when I'm around those folks. And those are some gems that we have. The student competition, the YSN group, and the mentorship group they're doing. It just multiplies. So amazing group.
Yeah, and it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the new YSN podcast that's coming.
Yes.
They're developing it. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, listen, I need to be cognizant of your time. You are a busy woman. Thank you for those who need a little backup here. Linda's put together a great blog post that's going to be published on the NSPS website here shortly. Kind of, really encapsulating all that we've talked about here today. But thank you for putting that together as well. Usually when the president's coming off and going into the past president role, it's kind of like, thank goodness that's over, and blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of hoping it was going to be, you kicking and screaming, not wanting to leave, but you accomplished so much and did so much and really set the stage for us going forward. With Tim Murphy, our new president, you deserve the time off a little bit. Not that work and family's not going to let up on you, but thank you for everything you've done for NSPS. Looking back over, like the first 3 years were fantastic. I'm looking. Not, I don't ever see you coasting through a year at all, but I do have to ask you my standard question of everybody else. I think we've got a pretty good idea of what it's going to be, but what's the future of surveying look like to Linda Foster?
It's brighter than it's ever been. Surveying is, as I've said through this podcast, and many times I hope it's come out throughout the years of my leadership. I'm inherently a positive person, but I really do believe that we are in a great place. We have done a lot. We are working hard. We can't be complacent and just say, yep, it's all great. It's all going to be fine. Good things take hard work, and we are putting in hard work. We are doing a lot of work, and as a result, surveying has never been in a better place. And we will continue, I think, to shine and to give in positive ways. I can't wait to see where our leadership team that's coming through here, where they take things. They're a great group. They have a lot of great ideas as well, and we will continue, I have no doubt, moving the profession forward, and can't wait to see where it goes. I think we're in a great place.
Well, once again, thank you for all that you've done to date. I know your time's not over, and there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to continue to push down the road, but for everything so far, thank you very much, Linda. I know I thank you, and our membership thanks you for everything.
It's been an honor. It's been a privilege. I am so excited. By stepping away from some of the leadership duties I've had, will allow me a little bit more time to pour some of that passion into some focused areas, a couple of committees that I've been involved with. So I'm looking forward to that. And it's onward we go.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and talk with me and kind of go over this, because this, in reflection, is like, wow, what a year. That was a great year. Yeah,
it was amazing.
Very good. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for this week's episode of Surveyor Says. Wherever you listen to the podcast, hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to Surveyor Says, the NSPS podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, as we are here to help. Subscribe to the podcast on most of your favorite streaming platforms, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. For more information about the podcast and NSPS, please visit our website, nsps.us.com. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.